So, okay, this one's from Razor. Razor Remote.
Hey, yo.
I hope this email finds you well. Thank you for that. It's a running joke on this show.
Doing great.
How the email actually finds us. Ah, my God. Now that that's out of the way, Razor says, I have a question that my cousin, a rabid 60-year-old Vikings fan in Connecticut, has posed and asked me to run past you guys. Here's the scenario. 2024 is a record-breaking season for Sam Darnold. He takes us into the playoffs, actually wins a game. J.J. McCarthy showing some flashes in practice. Maybe he's ready to start going into 2025 just behind the scenes. But Sam Darnold puts up career numbers everywhere. Vikings win a playoff game with him. Do we re-sign or franchise tag Sam Darnold and let JJ waste another year on the bench? Do we try to trade Darnold and find a serviceable veteran backup for JJ? I myself would trade Darnold and get ready for a run at a Lombardi with McCarthy, something I've waited 60 plus years to see. That's from rabid cousin, 60-year-old cousin in Connecticut.
Oh, great. Here we are. It's the QR code. And today we have a special edition. We're going to have a little quarterback discussion. And once again, we have the great Adam Rosen will be joining us and sort of a point counterpoint. At the lead in of this episode, I played a little clip from the guys at Purple Daily that the guys from QR code, myself and Q, discussed it back and forth. And back in July, before we started the season, we contacted the guys at Purple Daily just to get their opinion as to what they think that the outcome of this year's quarterback scenario should be. We had never seen Sam Darnold play. We didn't know whether it was going to be a 1-16 season, 16-1 season. And at that time, the question was, what happens if he has a really good season? What do we do? We've been down this road before. So, in our last episode, Adam mentioned that he had a few thoughts on that. He mentioned that in closing as we were walking out the door in the episode. So we wrangled him back so he can finish up his thought. So with that being said, I'm going to throw it to you.
Thanks, Razor. Again, pleasure to be back for a bonus discussion. First one was just awesome. The kids loved it. And yeah, I had some thoughts to kick things off. You know, things happen for a reason in this world, in this life. I'm a big believer in that. And you can't always plan them out. You can't always, have the foresight to do everything by the books. And I think that when it comes to managing football teams, one of the hallmark characteristics of really good management is kind of being able to readjust on the go, kind of manage things in a fluid situation. And football is as fluid thing as there is. And this is one of the most high-class problems we could ever hope our beloved Vikings would have. And we have had giddy with excitement, knock on wood, that Sam has had this breakout year. And while you mentioned what the guys on the Purple Daily, or then you guys had mentioned in July, I was telling my kids in July that the thing that I hope for most this season is that Sam Darnold is the second coming of Baker Mayfield, and on steroids. And it's happened. It's happened. Baker Mayfield was kind of left for dead, journeyman quarterback, and just all of a sudden landed in the right spot, the right coaches, the right team, right system, and has been flourishing. And right now, they're a team that I don't think anyone's going to want to face in the playoffs anywhere. But what Sam Darnold has done this year has been the same thing. He's after being in purgatory for most of his career, all of his career, essentially. He started with the Jets. That was a system under Adam Gase that could have derailed Tom Brady's career. He was in Carolina, where it was no man's land, had no shot, and then similar behind Purdy in San Francisco. He was a number 3 overall pick. He came out with unbelievable expectations, huge cannon arm, so many expectations, just never landed in the right system. He is in that right system right now. He is under a coach in a system where he is just built to flourish. And he's showing all the stuff that the Jets hoped that he would show 6 years ago. We have McCarthy on the bench. We have McCarthy who hasn't yet, taken a snap in practice healthy. He is a great prospect on paper. One of the bigger knocks against him that we kind of touched on after the last show was that he was never asked to carry a team through the air at Michigan. He had to do kind of minimal work through the air. And it was a different ball game there. Running game was heavily, heavily relied upon and successful. So what I very much hope is that Sam Darnold, and hopefully he continues and marches us deep into the playoffs. I hope that he's the starter under center next year. I think that McCarthy would benefit tremendously from sitting on the bench. Very, very evocative of Aaron Rodgers sitting on the bench behind Brett Favre for was it 3 seasons, I think, maybe into a fourth or something. And he flourished because he learned the system properly, wasn't thrown into the fray. But when you have a guy who's arguably a top 3 quarterback in the league right now, with what is it, 10 games with 105 passer rating consecutively or some crazy number like that, you don't get rid of this guy. I mean, you find a way to keep him. And I think the last thing I'll mention in this kickoff is that Kirk Cousins, big failure, and one of the big reasons why he's not a Viking this year, and that is a good thing. I think everyone now agrees, but he wasn't willing to take a hometown discount for anything. For anything, he was max, and if there's ever a wing in the Hall of Fame for agents, Kirk Cousins' agent is a first ballot Hall of Famer if there ever was one. Daniel Jones's agent is the second guy in there on a no question. But all that said, he is. I really think that in Sam's mind, like, why would he ever want to leave a system where he's flourishing like this and be put into a place like he was before? And I think that is a big reason why he would not make the same mistake, and he would do whatever is in his power to work with the Vikings to structure something. And I would go one step further and say that people, even like Jefferson, would restructure some elements of their contracts if it meant keeping Sam in a system where they are flourishing, getting the ball deep like crazy. It's just built for success. And this is, again, a high class problem to have that nobody saw coming. But you just don't let a guy who's just flourishing like this walk. That's my kickoff for you. Turn it back over to the man.
No, that's fine, and you make valid points. One correction I will make is J.J. McCarthy actually has taken snaps in practice. He actually played a preseason game,
Right.
so we have seen him on the field. My whole issue is I have no issues with Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold is doing a wonderful job. My problem wrapping my head around, I think I have a problem wrapping my head around is Sam Darnold has the talent. He was drafted third overall. He expected to have the kind of career that he is having now. I'm hard pressed to see why Sam, who is now 6 years older than he was when he was drafted, would want to say, you know what, I am willing to accept $38 million less per year to play here. I can't take my talents somewhere else because I wouldn't be as good. I think if you're a quarterback in the NFL and you have the mindset that I can't do this anywhere else, then you probably aren't going to make it anyway. I also think that for the Vikings to entertain the thought of, which is why one of the things I suggested in the Purple Daily clip was to franchise him, because franchising him would mean paying $38 million, putting it out there, and if somebody takes him, fine, we get a draft pick. But we don't end up getting nothing for him. I don't know the language in his contract. Maybe his agent said, "Okay, here's the deal. We're only taking 10 million. So one of the things is, we don't want you to be able to franchise." That might be it. It may not. For me, that would be the equivalent of a hometown discount if Sam Darnold did say, "Yes, okay, I'll let you guys franchise him." I can see why he would want to stay. What I am 100% vehemently against is the Packer way, where you burn up a guy's rookie contract by letting him sit 3, 4 years, which the Packers did, and they did it twice. And it
Mhm.
turned out that the first time they did it with Brett Favre, they did it with Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl, but he won a Super Bowl. The Packers hung on to him all those years. He won one. He won one. They then they did the same thing with Jordan Love. We don't know what Jordan Love's future is. I think if you draft a quarterback in the top 10, as we did with JJ McCarthy, and for a franchise who, let's face it, has not been able to find a quarterback, we have not been able to draft a quarterback. You have to be Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi were brought in, but especially Kevin was brought in to find a quarterback. Rick Spielman couldn't do it in his entire time here. He couldn't do it. If after all of that searching and all of that time and the effort, if you say to Kevin O'Connell, yeah, we believe you found the quarterback, but sit him for half of his rookie contract because we have a guy lightning in a bottle. I think again, this is from the humans, and I don't know Kevin O'Connell. I don't. We share a birthday, but that's it. Okay, well, he's significantly young. He's 25 years younger than I am. We share a birthday.
Yep.
I can say this categorically though, from all the football personnel, all the people I've known in upper management on teams, the players, every head coach, every head coach, especially Kevin O'Connell, thinks he can do with JJ McCarthy what he did with Sam Darnold, what he did with Kirk Cousins, and honestly after seeing what he did, not with Sam Darnold, because Sam Darnold was a third pick overall. After seeing what he did with Kirk Cousins in his first season, that tells me if he didn't have to undo the Kirkness that Kirk already had when he got him to make Kirk what he made into that first season, which he doesn't have to do with JJ McCarthy's coming in. He's won national championships. He's won in high school. He's won in junior high school. Kirk Cousins hadn't won in high school. He hadn't won in college. He wasn't a first round draft pick. He didn't have any of that. And talk about the intangibles, in the words of Kyle Brandt, the intangibles are great. You know what I like? I like tangibles. A tangible winning is a tangible. So JJ McCarthy, he may be the starter next year and he may go 3-14. He may go 14-3. I'm along for this ride. To me, this is a bridge quarterback year. Thank you, Sam Darnold. If he wants to stick around and be a backup and beat Daniel Jones out for the job, that's that's up to him. But if we sign Sam Darnold next year, it's going to cost us at least $40 million, which means that's going to be about two-thirds of our available salary cap for one player, and we've got six defensive spots we have to fill, and we're going to have to do that with $20 million. And I don't know how mathematically. I think we'll paint ourselves in the same situation that we were in with Kirk.
Mhm.
That's and to quote one of my favorites, Dennis Miller. Of course, that's just my opinion. I could be wrong.
Well, yeah, I mean, I hear everything you're saying as well, and points very well made. And it's kind of like they have a plan, stick to it. That's, I mean, I get it. Um, and I just keep coming back to this franchise. We are long suffering fans.
We're good at it. We're good
You
at it
know,
though.
we
Right.
have it down to a science. The predictability is unbelievable, and we just know crazy things happen. Um, we've never been tested in this
Mhm.
particular way where we have a guy who is lights out, just balling like nobody could ever even imagine, even in a best case scenario, and just flourishing. And do you look a gift horse in the mouth, or do you say, you know what? It was never our plan. It was never our intention. But man, you also look at a couple of other things, and these are I'll call them intangibles, but they could be tangibles. Just from the prototype kind of quarterback, McCarthy is definitely he's not like a huge guy. He's not like I mean Darnold kind of more of a classic mold, but um, I think I think that some of the other things that you just never expected to see from Darnold, like his escapability, his pocket, unbelievable sense. And it's like a Brady kind of gift. Like you just his feel for the pocket, and he just kind of makes the right spins almost every time. It's just like it's just one of these gifts. Like you either have it or you don't. The
And
footwork, he's just
I,
improving on this.
I have to again. Sorry to interrupt you, but
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
to
Go
ask you
ahead.
this.
No.
I have to ask this. Sam Darnold has all of that. He absolutely does. He's 27. He has all of that. But he was on three different teams prior to coming to the Vikings, and he didn't show any of that. Is
Yeah.
it possible? Is it possible that the reason that he's showing it now is because Kevin O'Connell and Josh McCown, we have two quarterbacks teaching one. Basically, we have two quarterbacks on our staff teaching one, two NFL quarterbacks. Is it possible that those two, as a team, unlocked Sam Darnold and taught him how to play? Because Josh Dobbs
Yeah.
came into this locker room
Yeah.
and won two games
Yeah.
off the street,
Yeah.
and Josh Dobbs does not have the talent that Sam Darnold has.
No, and he also didn't have the discipline that Darnold apparently has to kind of rein himself in. I think it's just I think it's 100% what you said. I mean, he's landed. He's just finally landed in the right system.
Right.
He's with the right guy. It's again, it's Baker Mayfield. Part two. He just this is a guy who's been around and never showed anything special, and all of a sudden you get him in the right coach, the right system. And we discussed last time, one of the things about this team, it's infectious. I mean, everyone is having a great time on this team and they are playing for each other. This is truly, truly a team that is enjoying the hell out of this, out of playing for this coaching staff. And you can see it. You can see it on their interviews. You can just see it on the sidelines. This is a very rare dynamic. And to upset the apple cart just because you had a plan in place. And I just, my biggest
And,
fear is
uh,
that a year from now, we have this discussion of like, how did we let this guy go? He's
what?
taken the who knows whatever team. They're in the playoffs. They were 4-10. Like, are you kidding me? Why
Un,
isn't he under center? I don't know.
un,
That's my biggest fear. That's really, it's like the
I
Vikings
understand it.
did it again. We
I
did it
understand it.
again.
Vikings fans have natural PTSD, and unfortunately, one of the hardest parts about a bridge season or a bridge quarterback is the bridge quarterback can be a colossal failure or they can be an amazing surprise. When an amazing surprise, you never want to let them go. I liken it to, you're having a mansion built, and the inspectors come in, they go, okay, um, your lighting, we've got to we got to do the entire lighting. You can't live in here because it's electrical work. So go find someplace else. So you go and you stay at an Airbnb and it's gorgeous. They've got the outdoor jacuzzi and it's heated, the pool, it's overlooking the beaches. But you're thinking, this is beautiful. This is great. Why don't we just buy this place? No, because you bought a mansion. You have a
Right.
mansion. This is a
Right.
rental. This is a rental. And Sam Darnold, this is a great problem to have. And I'm glad that the Vikings have this problem because
Yeah.
nobody's arguing that Sam Darnold isn't doing a great job. Nobody's arguing, oh my God, you should get rid of it. Nobody's arguing that.
Yeah.
And yes, some of us would love to say, you know, the bird in the hand. We have this. We have this. But if Sam Darnold turns out to be a guy who can get you to the first round of the playoffs or the second round of the playoffs, and 3 years later he can get you maybe into the NFC Championship game, that's great. But if JJ McCarthy turns out to be the first year he's a bust, and the next year he gets you into the NFC Championship game, and then the next year he wins the Super Bowl, and you're sitting around thinking, why did we do that? Do
Yeah.
we want to see that? Why not go the Pat Mahomes route? Because the Chiefs had a
Right.
quarterback, and they had a
Yeah.
plan. Sometimes leaving the plan, Mike Tyson, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. it's it's a great problem to have. And, Sam, well, I love seeing what he's doing out there. I love the fact that he's gotten the team working. I
Yeah.
also love the fact, and this is just from years of watching, I love the fact that JJ McCarthy is sitting in a locker room where he is watching winning because a
Sure.
lot of other quarterbacks don't get that. And
For sure.
Sam embraces JJ. He embraces training. He's a 21-year-old kid. He's
Yeah.
not threatened by him. He doesn't feel. Sam Darnold knows I signed a 1-year contract. You're not
Yeah.
out to take my job. That
Yeah.
didn't happen in Green Bay. Clearly,
Yeah.
it didn't, because Brett Favre, who said, "I'm not here to train him back up." Kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, you kind of
Yeah.
are. You
Yeah.
kind of are. So it's a great problem to have. I think the best case scenario for the Vikings next year, JJ McCarthy, rookie quarterback, let him go through his bumps. Daniel Jones on the back and on the bench. If Daniel Jones wants to leave and try to start somewhere else again, Bon Voyage, see you. We'll have to cough up money to find an actual backup. And I'm hoping we don't have to go that route where we have to spend
Yeah.
$20 million for a journeyman. So to me, it seems like a perfect scenario as far as you have a plan, you have a backup quarterback behind him, you have a seasoned, a professional, a guy who started, not somebody who maybe comes off the bench. Nick Mullins is a nice guy. I've met Nick Mullins. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
I don't want Nick
Super nice.
Mullins throwing three passes for me. The first two, fine. After that, I get nervous. I get nervous. I get
Right.
nervous every time the ball comes out of his hand. I,
Right.
another thing I will say about the Sam Darnold situation is if Sam Darnold does leave, it's not like there's going to be acrimony. I don't think he'd say, well, Vikings treated me wrong. But he would be eternally grateful to this team. And then maybe he does decide in some world that some team offers, because, teams are quarterback needy. I can name five off the top of my head. I'm sure you can too.
Big time.
Somebody's
Every
going
year. Every
to
year. Every
somebody's going
year.
to give him $40 million. Kirk Cousins just got $100 million. Somebody's going to give Sam Darnold off of this season. Somebody's going to give him $40 million a year. It
Oh,
can't
look,
be the
yeah,
Vikings.
look, Romo, kicker Romo, he's just like, no, he was auditioning. He was auditioning for every other team, as they say,
Mm-hmm.
while he was with us, and did a phenomenal, phenomenal job.
Yep.
And to a large extent, you could say the exact same thing about Darnold. He is betting on himself. He bet
Yeah.
on himself this year, and it's paying off right now to every observer. Um, you know one thing I think that may militate in favor of your scenario is Queasy's penchant for being married to analytics and to kind of just being of that mindset where you know they're not going to undo the plan and everything and then the other sad reality of football's a business and it's not going to be like an emotional decision. It's going to be a bottom line decision and all that. So all of that definitely could militate in favor of him not being there. And and it may very well be that he is literally out for the biggest payday he can find. And he looks at it this is a 1 year audition for every other team that needs a quarterback. 100%.
Oh,
100%.
absolutely.
If he
Absolutely.
but the downside to that is like, boy, when you find a system like this and it's just tailor made for you to flourish, like good luck playing. You imagine what a letdown playing for some other coaches it would be after being in this
Yes,
system. Oh my
absolutely.
God,
There, there,
you can
there have been guys all over the
from
league who have.
everything from the facilities, from the owners on down. What it's got to be like deflating,
Oh, yeah,
like
it
to
is.
go somewhere else.
And
So
the
yeah,
one of the
it's a
funny
crazy
things,
problem.
and we don't know this because there's a lot of discussion, there's a lot of friendly deals, handshakes, winks, and a nod that goes on. But the Danielle Hunter deal, Danielle Hunter got screwed by his agent. The Vikings recognize that. It's like, Danielle,
Yeah,
we would pay you more, but your agent didn't want more, so kind of thing. But they made sure they did right by him
yeah,
when the time came for him. And it was we can't call it a trade, but when one player leaves the team and another player from that other team comes over here, eh, in a friendly kind of, okay, tell you what, we'll make sure you get the deal and keep him happy, and you send us somebody, fine. Quasi is a GM. That's his job. His job is not to be friends with the guys. Like you said, it's a business. And they made the mistake last year of going in and asking the team, well, do we, clean house or do we start? You can't ask the team that. Of course, the guys are going to want to stay together. They want to play.
yeah, yeah,
So they made that mistake. Another thing, I mean, as far as I've seen, everything I've seen, and like the very first draft, and everybody pounds Quasi for that, which I think is ridiculous. I think the people that get on Quasi about that first draft, these are people who've never worked in any corporation. Quasi Mensa was hired as the
yeah,
GM. His
yeah,
job was to interview and hire head coaches. Oh, and by the way, you got a draft coming up in 26 days.
yeah.
He doesn't even know the names of the scouts. Okay, he doesn't even know these people. Rick Spielman's
100%.
people, all of whom knew they were going to be fired. They're like, oh yeah, here you go, boss. Here's my work. They were invested in that, and most of them are gone anyway.
Well,
Here's next
the
two.
big problem is that just so many owners and so many fans, for that matter, are in perpetual instant gratification mode as a
Well,
football fan, and that's really the fundamental issue. No one, it's like, what have you done for me lately? And you're, like give them 3 years, like to turn this team around. Like that's like a lifetime. People, it's just the nature of it, just instant gratification mode.
I,
And
I try not to get on my soapbox about
people,
that, but that's a generational thing. That's a
yeah,
generational
well,
thing
yeah,
because
and it's a reality.
yeah,
People, and we were very spoiled with Kevin's first year, winning crazy one-score game, like 11-0, like never unthinkable. I used to say, like during his first, I said it was almost a parallel to Tom Brady. I've always said Tom Brady had to have been born under the luckiest star of any football player alive. This guy, I mean, it was ridiculous. How many close every bounce just went his way.
yep.
I mean, just under the luckiest star. And I was thinking the same thing of Kevin. Like, my God, we got to. This guy is just like he's a lucky
Well,
charm.
well,
He's
well,
like,
well.
wow,
He's not that lucky because turns out when
well,
he got drafted, they put him in the same room with Tom Brady, and he had to fight
right.
for a job. So
Right,
that
right.
didn't work
No,
out.
but as a coach, I'm saying, wow, you know what? This guy is just another guy born under a lucky star, and everything's all of a sudden it's bouncing our way, and like, wow. My son made this comment, and I actually posted it on Facebook on one of the Vikings Facebook pages. I got likes from about 6 players on this, and the comment basically was that when we lost to the Giants in the playoffs 2 years ago, was
Mhm.
the best thing that ever happened to this franchise in the last 10 years, easily. The
Absolutely,
best thing that ever happened to us was losing that game because
absolutely.
that was the trigger for so much good that we've been experiencing. It was hard to experience at the time, but in hindsight, that was one of the best things that could have happened.
And
You
you
can
know
make
what?
a very compelling argument.
I have to agree with you, and I'm going to put a tail on that says you didn't see it when it was going on, but it
For
turns out
sure.
it was.
For
Much in the
sure.
way Sam Darnold leaving this team will likely be one of the best things we're going to be having this conversation. You and I will be having this conversation 3 years from now. with pictures of JJ McCarthy and Kevin O'Connell with the Lombardi saying, remember when we thought, and Sam Darnold, maybe he's the quarterback we're playing against. Maybe he's the quarterback we're playing against in the Super Bowl.
How
It's like,
ironic that would
no,
be.
yeah, no,
But,
no, no hard feeling.
but
Of course, you'd have to sign with Buffalo because I've always said next time we go, we're going to be playing the Bills because that's
and we would be
that's
remiss.
because
We would be remiss in not acknowledging a thank you to the Bills for
exactly.
last night.
Thank you,
Um,
Bills. Thank you,
for the
Bills.
other. So let me ask you this question:
Mhm.
Does anything in your take on this whole thing change if on February 10th we're having a conversation and we're Super Bowl champs and Darnold led us through the playoffs to a Super Bowl championship? Does that
Sure.
change Does that change anything?
Does that change if Sam
The
Darnold,
narrative. Does it change the
yeah,
narrative?
they change the narrative. Sam Darnold, to change my opinion. If Sam Darnold wins the Minnesota Vikings first Super Bowl, I say yes, keep him. Short of the Super Bowl, an NFC
Forget
Championship,
it.
an
He gets us
appearance, an
into the.
appearance.
So either he gets us in and or wins it to the Super
Mm-mm,
Bowl. We
not
keep him.
Andor, not Andor. It wins it,
Wins
wins
it.
it,
Okay.
wins it,
Okay.
wins it.
I'm just trying to see where the
Yeah, wins it.
where the
And I
line
said
in the
this.
sand.
I've you know what I've said this. I'll be honest. I've said this about every Vikings quarterback. If you win the Super Bowl for us, you have carte blanche
Yeah.
because getting us to the NFC Championship again, being spoiled at my age, I've seen them all. You've seen them all.
Yeah. Yeah.
The NFC Championship is just something we do every 10 years. I mean, it's just something we do.
Yeah.
That it's not a big deal for us. It's not. We're not the
Something
Lions,
happens.
okay?
Something
Yeah,
happens.
yeah. We're not the Lions. We've
Yeah.
been there. We've been there. It's
Something
time.
happens.
And at this point, it's like going to the dance with your date, and your date sees somebody else and leaves with him. That's what the NFC
Right.
Championship game is like. I don't want to go through that again, and I certainly don't want to lose another Super Bowl again. But if
No.
Sam Darnold wins a Super Bowl for the Minnesota Vikings this year, which it would have to be, well, in February of next year, then yes, open the door, open the vault, pay
Yep.
him because at
Yep.
that point you won't have a choice. But anything short of that, I
Uh-huh.
honestly believe in
Okay.
my heart of hearts that Kevin O'Connell can do what he did with Kirk Cousins. Can do what he did with Sam Darnold, with JJ McCarthy, who has not had any other coaching from any other NFL coach.
Hasn't been
Everything JJ
hasn't been
McCarthy knows.
tainted yet.
Exactly. He hasn't been
And I
tainted.
know
He exactly. He hasn't had been dragged through the Jets and the Panthers franchise.
hasn't been Adam Gase.
Exactly. So
Oh my
and,
God.
and and you know what? The bad thing for JJ McCarthy is, if he decides after 5 years he wants to go to another franchise, good luck. Because you're not gonna run into Kevin O'Connell again, and your next experience won't be with the Vikings.
I'll say one other thing about McCarthy, and this is also kind of a nod to Tom Brady and obviously the Michigan connection or whatever. But um, one thing that McCarthy never had a reputation of doing in college was hurting his own team. Very intelligent, very heady,
That's true.
did not hurt his team at all. He never put his team in a perilous position by recklessly doing things. And that was a knock on Darnold. That's a knock on Nick Mullins. Like just crazy. It's one thing to be like this gunslinger attitude, but when it's just totally reckless, you pay for it. And I think so. Kevin is the first guy who's reined that in. I think Sam is like just so he's just he. I joked around to the kids like they should line the entire perimeter of the field at U.S. Bank is like throw it out of bounds, Sam. Just live to play another play, Sam.
Yeah,
Put it everywhere where you can see it when he's scrambling.
you, you
And
can you
but
can
that's one big plus that I
you can see it.
remember talking about with McCarthy. He's like he's a very intelligent and even his coaches at Michigan said he's just such an incredible student of the game.
Yes.
And so a lot nothing I have nothing negative at all about it, really,
Mhm.
honestly. It's just like again,
That's
this
the
thing,
crazy
this
thing.
gift has been thrown into our lap and like, it's just like
we,
wow.
we, as Vikings fans, we don't know how to handle too much success, and that's
We
and,
don't.
and, and
We
it's a
don't.
it's a normal thing.
That's why I'm terrified. It's just
It's
going to
a,
be like this other chapter. Like, okay, here's another thing that we historically can screw up. Oh
well,
my God.
it's 50-50 chance. Like I said, I believe in Kevin O'Connell. I believe that
Yeah.
it's not a fluke that he was able to take three different quarterbacks and turn them into what they are or what they were. Because Josh Dobbs, I mean, that was a miracle that he was able to win those games with this kid.
And he
And
off and he obviously saw something in Darnold, just like he saw in McCarthy.
yeah,
McCarthy.
and he went out and got
Absolutely.
him. And he saw something in
100%.
Daniel Jones. And Daniel Jones will. And I saw a lot of chatter about, oh, why would we sign Daniel? Because sign Daniel Jones because we don't have a quarterback on the roster except JJ McCarthy next year. Daniel Jones is for 2025. If you have a year and 3 months with Kevin O'Connell and his system, you're going to learn that system. If you have 3 months, good luck. You won't.
Yeah, yeah. No,
It's,
I agree. I agree. It's a, you know, I've read it in a lot of places, and I think Kevin's even said it in some interviews that we have one of the most complex playbooks of any team in the league for sure, and it is not easy to learn.
no.
And people. I don't think anyone really appreciates just how much time like these guys pour over the playbooks and how much especially for a quarterback. It's mind-boggling to some degree the amount of information this guy's had to digest since being brought over, and to know it as fluidly as he does, and just to be performing so beautifully in the system. Um,
He'll make a
yeah,
good coach. He'll make a good coach someday. And one closing thought before we wrap
yeah,
this is I do have
yep.
to point out with all of the complexity that Brian Flores' defense playing absolutely out of their minds, those defensive schemes are that defensive scheme is extremely complex and time taking and painstaking. And it's amazing that these guys can still spend 2 to 3 hours a week working on their choreography. it's just amazing the damn routines that they have time to
Right.
work. I don't know how these guys spend 3 hours a week learning choreography like
And
they
they
do,
do,
but I'm
and they
glad
do
they
it
do.
all secretly, so no
Yeah,
one has any
that's
clue
it.
what
Yeah,
they're going
yeah,
to do.
they're
Like,
not doing it during game time.
are
They're
they
playing
doing it?
practice
Are
time.
they
They're doing
doing
it
it
on
in
their
the
own.
back? Are they doing it in the back room of Applebee's or something?
I
Like,
don't.
I don't know.
They could be, no, but well, if they did, Dan Campbell would be seeing it. But so who knows where they do it? I'm sure they all have homes big enough. But the fact that they all, as a group, again, this is why these guys are having fun. You get 12 guys who don't have to be together in their off time, working on choreography for when they so, and hopefully tonight,
You can
shortly,
use.
we will see some of that choreography. And
Hopefully, we'll
that'd
see
be
it frequently. We'll see it fast and often. Can I
oh,
throw out one little teaser of a question for you that's
sure.
been I've
Why
been
not?
thinking about all day since the Detroit Buffalo game?
Hmm.
I am predicting at some point between now and the end of the season for the Detroit Lions, whenever that season ends, which I hope is not in the Super Bowl, um, that Dan Campbell's very, very non-risk averse
Mm.
decision making is going to cause his team a massive, massive setback in a huge game before the season is over, similar to what happened last year. He had,
Well, well,
I'm just predicting. I'm
well,
predicting it right now. Somewhere along the line, he's going to make a daring, chancy play, whether it's going for it on a fourth down that's ill-advised or faking a kick, whatever it is. I keep throwing it just keeps recurring in my mind that he is going to derail his team again this year in some capacity along the way between now and the end of the season for his team. I
well,
just see it coming.
as a former horse player from back in the 70s and 80s, I can tell
Yeah.
you the odds on that are 1 to 9. You wouldn't make a dime on a $2 bet on that. Trust me,
I'm not looking to bet on it.
that's a high
I'm
yeah,
not looking to bet on
that's
it.
a high probability of occurring. We can almost guarantee that's
Uh,
the way this season's going to end. I mean,
uh,
it's as sure as, and a few years ago, and I'm going to say this in closing because I have to
yeah,
wrap this episode. But
yeah.
a few years ago, no, a few years ago, back when we got Brett Favre, first season we had Brett Favre, I told Q, and I said it publicly. I wish we were recording. I said, well, the season's going to end with him throwing an interception. It's going to cost us the game. And he said, why? I said, because I'm not psychic. That's the way his previous 4 seasons ended. His previous 4 seasons ended with him throwing a pick that cost him. It wasn't the NFC Championship game, but that's who Brett Favre is. That's who
Yeah.
Dan Campbell is. He's going to live by the sword, die by the
Denny
sword. But
Denny Green again.
exactly.
He
Denny
is who
Green
he
makes a
is.
one mistake. That's what they remember. He goes 15-1. Nobody remembers that. He 15-1. Nobody remembers it.
Isn't
But
it amazing? Isn't it amazing? I've worked in the markets and stock markets and investor relations for many years, and it is incredible to me that investors, and I'm talking serious big hedge fund investors, have an unbelievable memory for negative things. Like if
oh,
they get screwed on a stock, they will tell you every 20 years ago, they'll tell you every detail surrounding that at the drop of a dime. And if they made money on something modestly, they'll say, "Oh yeah, I think." But boy, do sports fans and particularly our Vikings fans, do we have like unbelievable memories for things negative? It's just
Like,
uncanny.
but somebody, a young lady once said this to me.
Where
Vikings
were
fans,
you?
Viking fans are like ex-girlfriends. We only remember the bad things. We only remember the bad things. And on that note, I'm going to thank
Yes.
you again, Adam.
Thank
And
you. I look forward
uh,
to more discussions
well,
and kudos on the whiteout outfit tonight. Looking
hey,
really
it's
looking
exciting.
sharp.
I'm not wearing the pants yet, but I may change into them when I go downstairs to watch the
I
game.
can't wait. I can't wait to see how the stadium looks tonight with every fan in white and the team
Oh,
in
it's going to
white.
be great. It's got to be great. It has
Yeah,
to be.
yeah,
But,
yeah. And I
but
want a 31-0 lead at the half. That's my
uh,
wish for the holidays.
don't we all? Don't we all? Well, we will definitely be having you back again with Q and
That's
I,
great.
and enjoy the game, Skol, and until then,
Skull.
oh,
Skull.
this has been the QR code.